Hey, what is up, y'all? We are here with the Lead First podcast, bringing you guys another episode, and I'm joined with
Skylar.
Aiden.
And I'm Mariano, the student pastor here at FBCO. If you're listening, you're likely a leader that wants to learn more about being an effective life group leader or first student leader in general. But before we get into today's episode, I want us to ask a question, an icebreaker, just to learn more about some of our student ministry staff members. Student ministry staff, what is a childhood habit that if someone knew about it, they'd be very, very surprised now, like a weird childhood habit that you had growing up?
I think Skylar should go first.
I hate going first, but okay. I seem like a social butterfly, but whenever I was younger, like anytime, even if I stayed at my grandparents' house, like I would have like a complete breakdown, and like I had to like call my mom like all night.
Oh.
Like I am not like I don't know, just staying anywhere that wasn't my own home, I would just get horrible anxiety, and I would be like, I want to go home. Which doesn't seem like me, but that's who I am.
Interesting.
Complete change.
What about you, Aiden?
This may be surprising to some people.
It's not.
This may be surprising. This may be not as surprising to other people. But when I was like 7 or 8, I clogged the toilet at my house a couple times. I don't know how 7 or 8-year-old is able to do that, but
A lot of toilet paper, probably.
yeah, probably. And yeah, I clogged it a few times, and my parents got really mad at me, so I got really paranoid about it, and I was like, you know what? To lessen how much I flush, I'm going to put some of my wipes in the trash can. And then my older sister was changing out the trash bag one night, and she's like, Aiden, stop putting your poop wipes in the trash can.
Dude, that is so disgusting. I feel
Yeah.
bad for your sister.
And then from then on, I never did that again, and would just I would. That's when I started folding. Actually,
Okay.
I think we're
Story
getting
for
too
another
deep.
time. The story for another time. So for me, there's quite a few embarrassing habits, but I think the biggest one is that I like to play with super glue, and my
What do you
parents would
do with
hide
it?
super glue. I don't know. I'd put it on my hands. On
Ow!
on the carpet. And
What?
So I
That's
got in
wild.
big trouble playing with
Yeah.
super glue, and I was told not to and taken away, and then someday I found it again, and I think I did it about 3 times.
Oh.
One time I had super glue, and I got it. Also, I don't know why my parents just didn't get rid of all super glue in my house. But I got it, and I actually super glued my nose, and I had to go to the hospital.
Like your nostrils?
Yeah, like my
Shut?
nostrils, yeah. And I didn't really know how to breathe out of my mouth, like 'cause I was a child, and I never thought about it. I don't think. So I just remember like, and then we went to the hospital.
That's
and,
scary.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy, and that's kind of when I learned my lesson about super glue. But it took quite a while. That's actually a perfect way to intro into today's lesson, which is behavior, dealing with the behavior of students in student ministry. And that's a process that sometimes takes correction. It can take multiple times of correction, like it did with me and superglue. And so we just want to talk to you guys today and kind of ask some questions and hopefully give you some wisdom on how to deal with students that have disruptive behavior in life groups.
Yeah, and just so you guys know, we have not had a case of super glue yet, but we do have a couple of poop stories that we may tell in the distant future.
Yeah, by the way, if
I
you're
hope we
listening, come up to us and share with us your childhood embarrassing habit. We would love to know about it. We might even use it in a sermon.
Yeah, that'd be great. Okay, so I have a couple of questions. The first one is for Mariano. I've got one question and then also a kind of a follow-up question. What are some of the most common behavioral challenges you see in student ministry, and how do you typically approach them?
So normally, I think it's just a disruptive behavior. So in small groups, you tend to have a student that wants to draw all of the attention to themselves. So it could be that they're just wanting attention, and they'll ask every question or they'll answer every question, and sometimes their answers are just
Out there.
yeah, they're not actually thought out answers. Or the other times, I've had students in small groups that really don't want to be there, and so because they don't want to be there, they're going to be on their phones or talking to the person next to them, or kind of distracting everyone else in the group by being disruptive. And then I'd say the same on a Sunday night or during sermons. Cell phones tend to be a major distraction in a way that people have disruptive behavior.
Yeah. How do you handle a situation without embarrassing or singling out the student?
Yeah, so I think that there's not necessarily a perfect way to do it. My advice to you as a life group leader is, if you have a student that they've been disruptive, and hopefully it's not a first-time student. We want to have these discussions. The student's been attending a little bit, and they're just clearly disrupting the rest of the class. The first step I'd encourage you to make is to talk to them one-on-one. And so have a one-on-one conversation after class and just say, hey, could you stay a couple minutes after class? And then just ask them, hey, or approach them and say, hey, I noticed that this was a little bit disruptive. Be clear about what it was, whether it was on their phone, they were being on their phone, or kept messing with another student, saying, and say, this was disruptive, and so I want to ask you to please not do that in class anymore. I would say that's the first step. We do have, in our leadership expectations, kind of a walkthrough. We would say that you go to the student one-on-one first. Second step would be to involve a student pastor or a student ministry staff member and having a conversation in a group, asking that student to not be disruptive. And then the third step would be approaching parents through an email or personal meeting.
Yeah. I recently, for our gatherings on Sunday nights, whether you're a leader in our student ministry or a different student ministry, I would also encourage you to do one-on-one stuff with students who might be interrupting during like a sermon or during worship or something like that, because that is also a very common time for students to be disruptive or trying to get attention from everyone else. And something that I've been telling students, and also have my leaders tell the student that would be disruptive, is like, hey, you're being disruptive, and that's affecting everyone else's experience here. So I think by not only pointing out that their behavior is wrong, but also how it's affecting other people, can help them realize a little bit more of how their disruptive behavior might be impacting the whole experience.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. All right, Skylar, here's your question. How do you handle situations where a student's behavior might be a sign of a deeper issue, like struggles at home or mental health concerns or other things like that?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing is, first, like they said, just pulling them aside and talking to them. And if it turns into where if you talk to them for the first time and nothing really comes of it, they're still acting out, I think a really good thing that actually my husband Keenan taught me is I've seen him just pull students to the side and be like, why do you think you're acting like this? And that's a really good thing, because they're able to self-reflect. And a lot of times whenever I've watched him do this with some of the guys in his group, they have straight up been like, I think I do this because of this, or something at home, or my parents have a lot of siblings, so they don't pay attention to me, or something, or my parents have a lot of kids, I guess. I have a lot of siblings, like I get less attention, this is the only time I get attention, something like that. And I think that's a great time for you as a life group leader to really be like, okay, I'm going to work on this with you, because it's something that is in your control and I want to help you with it, because whenever you're with someone else next year, I don't want that to continue to be a problem. But I think a lot of other times it could be mental health. We'll have students with ADHD, we'll have students with autism, we'll have students that need special attention from you. Which can be really difficult, especially if you've never dealt with that before. But I think also that's a time where you can get parents involved and you can say, hey, what works for you at home? What is something I can do for your student during life group? Is there something I can give them to fidget with? Really getting the parents on your side to really give your student the best experience you can for life group.
Yeah.
But I think if it comes down to you're worried about the student and you're worried about their home life or anything like that, the best thing to do is sit down and talk to the student and ask them, are you safe at home? It might go back to the question of why do you think you're acting like this? And they might bring up their home life. And if that's the case, if it sounds like they're not in a safe environment, if their parents sound abusive or anything like that, that's whenever you can come up to the staff and you can discuss it with one of us and say, what are the next steps? And that might require calling CPS. That might require reaching out to parents. That's all just up to whatever happens between you and that student.
Yeah, that's good.
That's really good.
Yeah, I liked that self-reflection question that Keenan asks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably
Why
going
do
to
you
steal
do
that.
this?
Yeah,
Why are you the way that you are?
that's how he is.
That's good. That's good.
All right, Aiden. Last question.
Okay.
What role does consistency and discipline play in handling student behavior, and how can we ensure all volunteers are on the same page with it?
Well, I think of how we put our discipline model in every packet that we do, like for camp, for underground, or for Seven Hills Student Conference, and it's all consistent. And like Mariano mentioned earlier, it's a one-on-one conversation with a leader, and if this behavior continues, then we take it up with first student staff member or the pastor, and then we get parents involved as well. But I think we should also be consistent in how we approach one-on-one situations with the student. Your approach should be the same for students you're close to and ones that you're not. Like if there's little Timmy running around the gym and stealing people's hats and annoying other people, and then little Jimmy on the other side is talking all the time during life group, yes, you're probably gonna be annoyed with one more than the other. If Timmy does his thing more often than Jimmy does, then I challenge you leaders to just ask God for patience in that moment, so that you can not just yell at them, because that's not something that I can be guilty of. I'm just like, boys, or something like that, which that gets their attention, but also when you're in that part of actually correcting them, it should be the same as you would for a student who is probably more often well-behaved, but makes mistakes sometimes. So either way, there should be a clear and fair system that shuts down misbehavior as well.
That's good. Yeah, and speaking to that, just as we wrap up, I also want to encourage our leaders when it comes to discipline or conflict, don't avoid it because it's necessary.
Yeah.
And then when you do have, when you discipline a student, or when you hear of another leader that disciplined a student, we have to be a united front.
Yeah.
And so we do not want leaders that you have a student come up to you and tell you about how this leader told them that they can't do this or corrected them. It can be easy to fall into a trap in a way and be defensive or take up for the student and then go against what that leader said. Yeah. And so if that's you, or you've been involved in that, or you're tempted to be involved in that, that's not how we run student ministry. We're a united front. So if I say something and I discipline a student, Aiden is going to have my back and say, that Mariano was right on that. And then if there's ever a time where Aiden thinks I should have done something different, that's a conversation for him and I to have one-on-one. We're never going to involve students and cause division of the way we discipline. So I do want to speak that to you guys and just be upfront and tell you that if we see that kind of division, we will talk to you, because as a leadership team, we have to be unified. And so we do not want to let that creep in to our leadership and to our discipline.
For sure.
Yeah, that's good. Well, we thank you so much for you guys listening to our podcast today. If you guys have any questions, have anything that you need help with, feel free to always come up and talk to us. And also just remember, sometimes a fresh mind is really nice to have, especially if you're dealing with a student every single week. Sometimes just picking someone else's brain of how to deal with it is a really good idea. So we would love to talk to you guys about any problems you have, but as of right now, we're going to say goodbye.
See you guys later.
See ya. That was right under 15 minutes.